Hello everyone, my name is Ahad Hussain and welcome to Titan Alumni Talks, a weekly podcast where we talk to alumni about their journey as a Titan and where they are today. Having been established in 1957, Cal State Fullerton is now nearing 300,000 alumni. Because we are a family of Titans, we should ask the question, who are our alumni? Join me every week as we meet some of our CSUF alumni from various industries to answer this question. For today's episode, we have Maria Elena Parada as our guest. She graduated from Cal State Fullerton with a bachelor's in molecular biology in 2011, and she now works as an associate defense attorney at Ford Walker Haggerty Behar. So thank you, Maria Elena, for taking the time to come back on campus. And I see you're dressed in all Cal State Fullerton colors, plus you got the shirt on too. So a lot of school spirit here today.
A lot of school spirit. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So what do you do currently now?
Okay, so I'm a defense attorney for Ford Walker Haggerty Behar, and what that means is that what I specialize in is personal injury, premises liability, and wrongful death cases. And our firm is retained by different insurance companies, so we represent their clients when they have accidents, and that's basically what I do. And depending on the case, depending on how complex it is, it's a big team of attorneys, and each one of us takes charge of certain parts in the case until it eventually goes to trial.
So how did you get into this field of being a defense attorney for insurance claims and for injury in particular?
I mean, it's a long story, so it depends on how far back you want me to go. You mean starting law school? Or once I started law school, did I always know I wanted to be a defense attorney? No, I did not. When I was in law school, I gave myself the opportunity to explore the different areas of law so that I could figure out what was my calling and what I was best at. Because in law, there's a lot of things you can do. There's criminal law, there's, like I mentioned, civil litigation. There's a lot of things. So I remember I did a couple of internships at different places. For example, I did an internship with the Consulate of Mexico because I'm Mexican. And it was always very clear in my mind that regardless of what area of law I practiced, I wanted to find something where what I did could have an impact and where I could help people of Hispanic descent because my Spanish is fluent and I want to help. And that's how, my way of feeling a direct connection. So I did an internship there, and I traveled abroad too when I was in law school. I did an internship in Mexico City. So I explored and explored until I had an internship in a personal injury firm, but plaintiff side. And I learned a lot there. And then, a lot of different internships. Just to give you an idea, I must have done at least 7 to 10 different internships while I was in law school. I definitely wanted to find out what I wanted.
And these were in different specifications of law?
Yes.
Okay.
So I even did some family law. I did adoption law. I did a lot of different areas until I found something where I was more comfortable in. And after I passed the bar exam, I started looking for an official job as an attorney. Before passing the bar exam, let me tell you, you are when you're in law school, you're what they call a law clerk. And you help attorneys with little tasks they give you. Once you graduate from law school, you're kind of stuck in a limbo while you pass the bar exam, where you can still clerk, but you're kind of you have a higher status than a clerk because now you're a JD. You have a JD, and you can start working. But until you pass the bar exam and you're officially an attorney, you can't be hired as an attorney.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck in a limbo. So I did a couple more jobs while I was a JD. And then once I passed the bar exam, I was in workers' compensation for a month and a half. And I decided, nope. And then I went into defense, personal injury, which is what I'm doing now. And I like it. I enjoy it very much.
So how much does it differ from each specification of law? Like you mentioned, adoption and family law. How much does it differ from what you already know from the past?
So when you're in law school, you take a lot of different classes, different subjects. You take torts, criminal law. My gosh, you take just a lot of classes. Yeah. Civil procedure, and so you learn a little bit of everything. But once you graduate, if you want to do family law for life, then obviously you have to learn and get involved into everything that it entails.
Yeah.
If you want to go into immigration law, then you're going to focus on that.
Oh, okay.
But I would say there's certain areas that do overlap or work together. I find that a lot of people who practice immigration law, one way or another, end up practicing family law
Oh, yeah.
and
that
criminal
makes
law
sense.
because their clients need it sometimes and they just have to learn about it. But for example, for me with personal injury, I mostly refer people out when they ask me for help with criminal law because obviously I do nothing that is related with criminal law and I do nothing that is related with family law for sure. So I refer clients to my colleagues.
So at this law firm, you're mentioning colleagues. So this law firm consists of people from, or is this only for defense?
Only for defense.
Oh, okay.
And they do, my area is personal injury, but we have attorneys there that do dental malpractice. And they do different areas, but it's all defense work.
Because, yeah, law always, like, confused me a bit because I know there's, like, so many things that
Yes.
I'm just, like, blindsided to that I didn't really know much about, but that's interesting to see how one firm takes care of a lot of one specification and then it has branches within it.
Yes.
And you're just, like, part of that branch that's in it. Okay.
Right. As long
I
as
see.
you keep your little defense attorney umbrella, you
Mhm.
can go into, okay, I'm going to do defense on premises liability, defense on dental malpractice,
Yeah.
defense on construction defect, or whatever it is. But you're doing defense work, not plaintiff's work.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
That's pretty interesting because it reminds me sort of where it comes into people wanting to be like doctors or maybe even computer science, where that's like the broad spectrum of it. You want to be a doctor, but then there's so many little things you can go into from
Right.
that. And same with computer science. Like just because you're learning it, you go into like video game design, UX design, software engineering, and just like security. Like there's so many things on the back end that you can do.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And not just because you're a doctor, they can't expect you to know everything. You have your, I mean, if you specialize in something, you know what they're
Yeah,
going to
so
know
like
more
you're
about.
specialized and
Right.
stuff. Okay. So tell me how you got into law because we mentioned before that you did graduate with a bachelor's in molecular biology. So how did that happen?
I'm going to begin that story by telling you that my dad is a doctor. So you can imagine growing up and seeing my dad being a doctor. He was my hero, and I wanted to be like him. And when I was in high school and I did volunteer work at the clinic where he works, and I would see the impact doctors have in people's lives. And I knew I wanted to do something like that. And I remember I was able to see blood and not feel,
Queasy with it?
yeah, and I didn't feel queasy. I didn't want to vomit. I didn't feel disgusted by it. It was just natural to me. So I felt like I had a calling. So, and I'm also a first generation student. So I was the first student in my family to go to college in this country. So I knew I wanted to be a doctor, and I asked, what do I have to do to be a doctor? And I remember in high school they said, well, you have to go into a field where it's going to lead you to medical school because you have to meet certain requirements. So when I got to Cal State Fullerton, they told me that biology would be the best fit for me if I wanted to be a doctor. So I became a biology major, and I enjoyed it. It was very, very challenging. I'm not going to lie. I knew that biology was going to be challenging, but not so challenging because you would think at first that biology would entail maybe just biology, anatomy, but no, they bombard you with math and calculus and physics and chemistry and OChem, and I cannot tell you how many times I asked myself, oh, what am I doing here? Because it was so challenging. I remember I had friends who were also biology majors with photographic memory, and I kid you not, they were able to look at whatever it was, especially OChem. They were able to look at the little diagrams on the board and memorize the structures. And just by looking at it once or twice with the little photographic memory, they had it down. Me, no, I had to study. Hour after an hour, review, and then maybe I had it down. So being a biology student was not easy. It was a complete challenge that required a lot of sacrifices. I remember I would see students in other fields, with other majors, and they were able to go to parties, and they were able to have time to become part of sororities, or guys would go to fraternity parties and all that stuff. Me, I always had to study. I always had homework. I always had something that I needed to review or prepare for. I know that there's Thanksgiving break coming around. Let me tell you, when Thanksgiving break came around for me, that whole week meant I had a lot to read, a lot to study, a lot to outline. And I know other students had big breaks and I didn't. If anything, I maybe had like one or maybe at most 2 of those days were free for me because I knew I had so much to prepare for the finals coming up.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That there was no way I was going to have fun. Mm-hmm. So it was hard. But I knew that it was going to be worth it. So I stuck to it. I went through all those classes that I told you, and I became a biology major. And I finished all the requirements to get into medical school. I actually applied to medical school. I took the MCAT. That is a very, very challenging exam. When I think about how many hours I was in there, I'm like, oh my God, girl, you have been through a lot. And so I went through all of that. I applied, and then I didn't get in. And I was crushed. Because you can imagine working so hard for something that you think is the optimal goal in your life, and then you don't get in. And then I had a moment in my life where I had to really think about what I wanted to do and really start paying attention to the signs. And that's when I started realizing that I had a lot of strengths and things that came natural to me that I kept ignoring. So you know how I told you I was struggling with OChem and physics, and God knows I struggled with calculus? There were other classes that were just very natural to me. Like writing was very natural to me. Analyzing was very natural to me. And I didn't pay attention to that. And I remember one of those general education classes, I had I think it was called a civics class. It was a general ed class. And that professor really had an impact in me because I remember I wrote some essay on law. And she gave it back to me with a very high grade. And then she wrote, "You are a true diamond in the rough. Consider law." And I just ignored it because I said, no, I want to be a doctor. That's it. Thank you, but no thank you, sort of a thing. So when I didn't get into med school, that's when I finally started paying attention to all those things that I liked and had been ignoring because I was so close-minded to doctor. And then I started listening to, like I said, it's just something internal that starts telling you, okay, the world does not end. You have 1 year to reapply to med school unless you find something you like more and want to give yourself a chance to discover what you want to do. So then I started analyzing the things like this, like that professor telling me you're meant to be a lawyer. I had family members who would tell me, look, there's more than med school. Consider other things. Be a lawyer. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm not going to be a lawyer. Believe it or not, there was a carnival back when I was a student here, and they had a palm reader. And being a freshman, I'm like, I'm going to go see what she says about my career. So I went to her, and she read my hand. And I asked her, am I going to be a doctor? And she said, no, I see something different here. I see law. I see something with analysis and psychology maybe, but no, I think it's law. And I was so upset. I was just like, why does she not see that I'm clearly going to be a doctor? So when I didn't get into med school, I started thinking about all of those little moments. And then there was an open house for the law school I went to. And I decided I should go check it out, just to see what would happen. So I went to the open house, and I loved it. I loved the school when I started listening about the program they had, the classes, what the classes were about, what you could do once you became a lawyer. I was just like, I felt like my eyes opened. My mind was just blown away. And then I found out that you could finish law school in 3 to 4 years versus being in med school forever. Yeah. Well, actually, first waiting a year just to reapply, just to see if you could get in, and then go to med school for 4 years, and then see if you can get into a specialty. My whole life was gonna,
Yeah. At least like the next 8-10 years would be like.
Right now, it's just like, okay,
learning.
Maria Elena, stop. Listen to the signs around you. Think about what you really want. Visualize how you see yourself in 10 years, where you want to be, what do you really want from life? And then I said, all right, I definitely can see that I like law. And not only do I like it, but I think I'd be good at it. And not only would I be good at it, but I think people would appreciate my skills. And I can make a living out of this. Yeah. So then I said, you know what? I'm going to take the LSAT. I'm going to apply to law school. And if I get in, great. I'll become a lawyer. It was meant to be. And if I don't, then I'll apply back to med school and I'll see how that goes. And you know what? Taking the LSAT and then applying to law school must have been the best decision I could have made, because I got into law school very easily. Well, not very easily, but compared to med school and the struggles that I was going through, I felt like the doors were just opened and it was meant to be and everything worked out. And I enjoyed law school. I enjoyed the classes and they really did appreciate my skills. And being a biology major, all that hard work and all those difficult courses helped me, because I had a discipline. Like, I was a good student. I knew that law school was going to entail a lot of reading, a lot of outlining, a lot of memorizing and analyzing, and I was ready because of all those things I went through when I was a biology major. So then I thought, okay, well, things happen for a reason, and look, now I get to be here with you trying to inspire and tell other students about how I ended up where I am.
So I want to touch on the whole getting into law school. So because you didn't major in undergrad, how were you able to get into law school? What were the requirements for that?
See, the thing is, I always thought that to get into law school, you needed a specific major. And that they would expect you to be a law expert by the time you got in, or that you had to be a political science major. Nope. They will take any degree that you have. Okay. So if you want to be a political science major and decide you want to go straight into law school, perfect. If you want to be a Spanish major and then you want to go into law school, perfect. You just need a good LSAT score that shows that you have the ability to analyze and think critically, and you're good. So to them, me having a biology degree was actually an asset, because I was so prepared with all that math, all that bio, all that physics. They knew I had brains, basically, and they said, okay, well, good LSAT, good background. They knew I was a first-generation student. They knew I was going to work hard, and I guess all that worked together for me to get in.
Because that's interesting. It's completely different from med school, where you would need to get a major in specialization and have a full background in biology, plus take the MCAT in order for you to get into med school.
Right.
But with this, you just need to take the LSAT and you're good to go.
The LSAT, I mean, there's, of course, if you want good scholarships, full ride scholarships, there's probably more things you can do to guarantee that. Internships that show you want to be a lawyer with all your heart, definitely major and know that you have some experience. Be a law clerk for a firm and show that you have some experience, that this is really what you want. But for someone like me, although I didn't have the experience, I had a solid degree and I had a good LSAT score that kind of backed me up.
So I also want to touch on, what did your parents say when you decided you were changing to law? Because I know a lot of parents over here, if you tell them that you're changing your major or you're changing your career path, especially so late in your education, they'll be a little apprehensive and a little pushy towards you to try and keep you on that initial career goal that you had.
Right. And I thought my dad was going to be very disappointed at me not following in his footsteps, especially when he knew I had already taken the MCAT and all that stuff. But he wasn't. He was very, very supportive. And I think he saw so much happiness in my eyes when I returned from that open house and I told him I want to be a lawyer. He knew that that's what I really wanted to be. And he said, mija, if you wanted to be a lawyer, a doctor, I would be very supportive of that. But I don't care what you become, to be completely honest. I just want you to be good at what you're doing, be the best at what you're doing, and be happy with what you're doing. So if you want to sell ice cream down the street, just be the best ice cream seller out there. That's what he told me. And then I realized I was free to do whatever I wanted with my career decisions. And that gave me the strength to go forward and go into law school.
Well, that's really good that your parents and especially your dad was super supportive, even though initially you would assume that he wouldn't be because he wanted you to follow in his footsteps, but he was supportive, which is really good to hear. And a lot of students don't really get that support from their parents who try and keep them on the same goal, but he was just letting you be whatever you wanted to be as long as you were happy doing it and you were good at what you did.
And it's just that, I mean, your parents can have a lot of influence in what you do or do not do, but you really do have to keep in mind that it's your life. And the only one who's going to be miserable working somewhere they don't like, it's going to be you. So try to do something. I understand parents' concerns when they see their kids going into something that is not necessarily going to be leading up to a good salary or them being able to afford a house or whatever. I understand that perfectly. And I do think we have to make mature decisions and balanced decisions where you do something where, yeah, this is something that I love, but this is something also that I'm going to be able to
make a career out of.
And not only that, but be able to afford life.
Yeah, make a living out of. That's
right, make
important.
a living out of it. There has to be a balance. You have to follow your heart, but you have to follow your heart with your brain too. You can't just be like, I'm just gonna, La La Land will help me. No, it's not gonna happen. You have to be mature about it. So I understand parents' concerns. And what do parents see? They see that people who end up going to med school, law school, are better off. So that's why they try to get their kids into going into those paths. But it doesn't mean that it's the path for you. That's why I would like to emphasize that you have to really listen to the signs. Pay attention to what you're good at. Pay attention to the little details that can really guide you into what you're meant to be, instead of being stubborn like I was. I want to be a doctor. Because, had I figured out earlier on in my life that I wanted to be a lawyer, maybe I would have been a political science major. And maybe I would have been a lawyer a lot younger too. Who knows? I guess God works in mysterious ways, right? And everything happens for a reason. I love all the experience and all the knowledge I learned being a biology major. Would my life have been easier and would I have had the college experience had I had a different major? Maybe. But I'll never know. Yeah. The only thing I can say for those students who are already at Cal State Fullerton trying to decide what they want and that don't know what they want and have all these internal battles because their parents say one thing, their heart says another, their mind has no idea. I would just say stop and think about what you want and think about what you're good at and think about where that's going to put you in 10 years. And then if you're still confused, reach out for help. Put yourself in a situation where others can help you. Go to internships. Go to open houses like the one I went to. Go to a career resource. I don't know if you guys have orientation programs now where they tell you your different career options. Don't ignore those. Those are so valuable. I wish I had been in a situation where I was better guided so that I would have maybe listened to those signs and maybe understood that it wasn't med school, that it was law school. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, I didn't have that good guidance. And because my parents were, I was the first generation, my parents didn't know much about the educational system in this country. They could only help me so much. So for those of you who are going through what I went through, hopefully this helps.
Yeah. A lot of students who do go here are first generation. Right. And if you don't have like an older sibling or a parent who went to college here, you're figuring things out on your own. But we do have like a career fair and career resources where you can go for help and ask for career advice and try and find a passion through it. And that's why we have a lot of like university classes, like 100 classes, in which you do try and find your path and where you want to go in life. But like you said, it is a balance between following your heart and your mind, because a lot of things we want to do, it doesn't turn into a career, right? So people have passions for things, like say this podcast. I love doing it, but I know that realistically I can't just drop out of school and be like, okay, time to make my podcast like a full-time thing.
Right.
It won't happen, or it might, most likely it won't happen. So you need to follow your mind also and think about what's the reasonable choice where I can make a living and also like what I do. So you have to find that balance between what you like, and sometimes you have to give up on like the thing you like the most. Try and follow your passion, and it would be great if it does work out 100% of the time, but we know that most of the time it isn't La La Land, where you said, where you just walk in, you do what you love to do, and then you make a career out of it. It just doesn't always work that way.
It doesn't always work out. And look, there's very creative people out there who have lucked out and have been able to make a living out of their passion. And you know, that is awesome. Yeah. But that doesn't happen to everyone. And we live in a world where we have to really, really fight hard to make a living, to be able to put ourselves in a situation where we're going to thrive. So you just really have to, like I said, think with your heart, but also think with your mind and see where it's going to lead you.
Because there's a lot of that where people, like you said, they just want to find their own passion. Or it could be the opposite way, where they are only following your mind like you were for a period of time and just thinking, I want to get into the career that makes the most money, or just wants to do something that other people tell you to do and what you think is the best, but it's not following your heart and your passion. So it's also finding the balance between the passion and the understanding of what works the best.
Oh, and let me tell you, I didn't even go into med school or wanted to get into med school because of the money. I wanted to be a doctor because my dad was a doctor, because I thought I would be a good doctor. And you know, maybe I would have been a good doctor. But the thing is that the requirements were like basically it was basically impossible to get into med school. Yeah. So you have to be realistic. What do you want to sacrifice to get where you want to be? Is the sacrifice going to be worth it, or are you going to regret it? Those are the questions you need to be asking yourself. So when I asked myself those questions and then I thought about the years and the sacrifice, I'm like, it's not worth it. Yeah. And then when I balanced it out with law school and what my life would be like when I became a lawyer, I'm like, this is worth it. And all the sacrifices I have to do to get there are going to be worth it. Mm-hmm. That's where you want to put yourself.
Yeah, in econ, we call it the cost-benefit model, where you have to see...
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, you have to see, like, there are benefits, right? You would have had a great benefit following your passion or maybe staying in med school, but what's the cost of it, you know? You would have spent so many more years studying. You would have grinded out. You would have had gray hairs. You would have just been so stressed out working with it and trying to make that into a career and make it into a passion also. And, yeah, the cost of it would have been too high, and you saw that too, which is why you went into law. Right.
And, you know, thinking about students who could be in a situation where they don't know what they want to do, it's really, like, I can't emphasize it enough about just stopping and thinking about what you want, because college is getting very expensive. Mm-hmm. And you can no longer afford being in La La Land trying to figure out what you want and taking general ed classes forever while you figure it out. Time goes by very fast and classes are very expensive. So they really, really need to think about what they want. Like we keep the cost benefit analysis and see if it's going to be worth it, and go get orientation. All those programs you guys have right now, take advantage of them. Make the best out of it so you can feel proud of what you did 10 years from now.
Yeah. And there is kind of a way to get around the whole cost of it by walking into some classes in, say, Mahalo. I've walked into a few.
You can do that?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't been kicked out yet, but I mean, I guess you can do it. I just walked in and I take some business. I don't like take the full course. I just walk in for a few classes and just like learn what the professor is teaching. And with that, you don't have to pay for it. You're kind of like already, I'm on campus already. Like, you know, why not just take an extra class? Like just being there like maybe once or twice a month, you know, just like walk in, be like, oh, okay, nice. I get a feel for like this class.
Well, that's very smart.
Just make sure like you're not taking anyone's seat. Just make sure there's like an open seat in there, and
you know, I could see how like back in the day, I don't think that would fly very well with me, because my calculus classes and all those classes were small. Oh, so the professors recognized you. Yeah. And I bet you, had I walked in, first of all, who would want to walk into a
No, I do actually. I love math. I'm a math minor actually, so I love
really?
Numbers and math. Okay. So I would. If I wasn't minoring in math, you would see me in one of those classes. You're like, is he in here? No, but let's say I am.
Yeah. But see, I think back then I would have been very curious about sitting in a communications class. Mm-hmm. I always was attracted to that field. Yeah. But then again, I waited out. What am I going to do when I graduate? Mm-hmm. What are my work options? What am I going to do? Am I going to have a good, solid support system to find a good job? I don't even know anyone in the industry. And no one in my family has ever done that. So I shied away from that. And maybe I would have been good at communications. I don't know.
Yeah, because there's a lot you can get into, but if you don't know at that time, then it's kind of, you see the cost of it. It's too much. But then you can do a lot with PR, and especially in law now, if you minored in communications. And that's why I am minoring in math and physics, because those are both passions, and I just feel like it's worth it. I think the cost of it is enough, like the extra year that I'm going to take in order to complete 2 minors. I think it's worth it in order to get the 2 passions that I have in there with my computer science degree.
And look, you're only going to be in college once.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
assuming, 10 years from now, you don't think about going back to college and studying something else. You're only going to be this young once. So make the best out of it.
Yeah. Find what you like to do and just do it,
Network. Build good friendships with your professors, with your friends, because your friends now are going to be your colleagues in the future, or they're going to be people you can reach out to for help with something. Yeah. So that has a lot of value, and hopefully you take advantage of it too, and every student at Cal State Fullerton. Yeah.
So we're going to go on a commercial break, and when we'll come back, we'll ask Maria Elena about some quick fire questions and test her trivia on Cal State Fullerton. So now we're back with Maria Elena, and we're going to ask her some questions about Cal State Fullerton and about her personal life. So first things first, what year did Cal State Fullerton open up its doors?
1957.
That's great. It's on your shirt too, so I was hoping you would get that, and you did. Okay. Over school colors.
Oh, blue and orange.
Is gray is also like one of the colors? Is that like one of the official ones?
I just know it's blue.
I know it's blue orange, but I think it's gray blue and orange, or is it blue orange white?
I think it's white.
I know there are 3 colors. Yeah, I think it's blue orange white.
Look, my shirt has orange and white, and I'm wearing blue, so I'm pretty sure.
I think it's blue orange white.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with that.
We're gonna go with that.
I'm gonna look this up. I need to know. I should know this.
It's like, you come to the school.
Yeah, I do come to. But I mean, you went to the school and you're an alumni.
And it's been how long?
Both, but still, you're both. It's only my 3rd year, so you do have an extra year on me. You took 4 years. I'm only here for 3.
Yeah, but it's been how long? No, but it's
That's
okay.
true.
Look, I see. Look at that. It must be
blue, orange, white.
Blue,
yeah, it must be
white.
Orange, blue, white.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that. Then.
We'll go with that.
Yeah.
We can have someone else tell us. No, you're wrong.
Someone's gonna be like, Rebecca's gonna tell us that we're wrong.
Rebecca's like, what kind of alumni are you? What kind of student are you?
What kind of podcast are you hosting? I'm gonna get fired. It's simple. Math, science, or art? Which one? Math, science, or art?
Science.
Science? You like science?
Definitely not math.
Not math.
I struggled. I worked very hard and I passed. It doesn't mean it was my favorite. Science was my favorite.
Because I mean, like, science is a broad spectrum. But I mean, like, you did. Because then I'm thinking, like, biology I cannot do, chemistry I can't do, but physics I can do. But physics is more math.
You're very math oriented.
Physics is like a math.
Yeah.
It's not really a science.
No, math is.
Physics is more of a math. And then art. Yeah. I draw stick figures.
If my life depended on art, I'd be dead.
Yeah, same. I can do stick figures. Decent? No, I can't.
I do art stuff to relax. So I like to paint.
I see.
Take photographs and be all artful and crafty for fun.
I see.
Because if my life depended on it, I'd be dead.
Yeah.
People will be like, "What is that?"
So Spotify or Apple Music?
Spotify.
What is the last song you played on there?
It was a song in Spanish.
What's it called?
Despacito. By Luis Fonsi.
Yeah, so it's not the remix with Justin Bieber. No. It's the original one.
The original one. That was actually the last song, yes.
Oh, okay.
At the firm, the fact that I speak Spanish is very valuable. Yeah. They send me all kinds of cases where the client does not speak English, or they'll call me, they'll run down the hall, like, can you come and translate? Yes, and I love that. I like feeling useful. So
especially in Southern California, like, it just makes sense that it's such a useful skill to have.
It is.
So dogs or cats?
Oh, I'm gonna go with dogs.
Okay.
But I do have a cat.
Oh, okay.
And I love her. She's very cute.
Are you planning to get a dog anytime soon?
I have a dog too.
Oh, you have a dog and a cat.
That's why I'm kind of split, because I know what it's like to have both.
Yeah.
And I love dogs. They're they're a great pet.
Yeah.
But the cat, surprisingly enough, I think my cat thinks she's a dog, and she behaves like a dog, and that's why we love her so much.
Oh, okay.
But she also behaves like a cat, and I love that too. So I can't say both, right? So I'll go with dog.
Your favorite destination you've traveled to?
Thailand. Without a doubt.
Oh, okay. When did you go there?
when I was a student here.
Oh, you studied abroad?
I studied abroad. So this is how it happened. As a bio major, I think it was my second or third year. I can't remember. But they had a study abroad program, and I won a scholarship to go do research in Thailand. So I was out there for almost a month and a half or a month, and I traveled to Bangkok, and then I went to Chiang Mai. And I studied at the University of Chiang Mai, did research. I went out to the villages, and we had translators who would help us interview the village people. And then I also had the opportunity to travel to the islands, the island of Koh Samui. It was a beautiful experience. I love Thailand.
So you said it was a month and a half. Was that over the summer?
Over the summer.
Would you recommend studying abroad?
Yes, without a doubt. Yeah. When I was in law school, I studied abroad because of the good experience that I had when I went to Thailand and studied abroad as a student here, because you don't travel by yourself. You travel with a group of students, you travel with professors. You're not alone, basically, and they can guide you. And because I was so young and inexperienced, I didn't feel comfortable traveling by myself, especially I remember when I told my parents I was going to go to Thailand, and they were like, "What?" Because of everything that they hear, all the dangers and the kidnapping, and that Taken movie had just recently been released, and my dad was like, "No, you're not going to Thailand. Go to London." They had a study abroad program in London as well. I was like, "No, Dad, that's like 16 weeks and a half or something like that, and this one's shorter, and I'm gonna get a lot out of it, and I won a scholarship. I want to take advantage of that."
Yeah.
So I remember they had like a potluck party. My parents went to that party and met the professors I was going to go with. Okay. And my dad actually went as far as telling the professor, "Please take care of me." I was like, I don't know how old I was, 19?
Yeah.
So it's kind of embarrassing, but,
I
get
feel
it.
That. I have protective parents too, yeah.
I'm the only girl, or the only daughter, the eldest daughter, the first one to go to college. So you can imagine, they
want to take care of
never traveled abroad by myself, so they wanted to make sure I was going to be safe. But I absolutely loved that experience.
I see. Yeah.
I'll tell you something though. If you can get a scholarship or save up for the trip so you don't have to get a loan, I would highly recommend that, because when I was a student here, I got through college with scholarships, a lot of scholarships, and I saved a lot of money. And when I went into law school, then I started getting loans because law school is very expensive. So I would say if you have plans to get a master's or pursuing higher education, don't get in debt while you're in college. Get in debt, later on. Like delay it as much as possible. So save up, work, do whatever you have to do, get those scholarships, and travel.
Yeah. So did you work on campus as a student?
I did not, except the summer of my first year. So when I became a sophomore, I was a new student orientation leader. And that summer, we gave student tours, and I started the first tours in Spanish. I proposed that idea, and they're like, "You want to do it?" I'm like, "Yes, I'll try it." So then we started that, and then a couple of us started doing the tours in Spanish as well. And I remember we would put on like a presentation, sort of like ASB high school, but college. And that's what I did for that whole, I think it was for a month. And I don't think I worked on campus after that.
Oh, okay, I see. Did you get paid for that or no?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, so you get paid for that. I should sign up.
Yeah.
So your favorite Cal State Fullerton memory?
My favorite Cal State Fullerton memory?
Yeah.
Like in a class or just in general?
Just in general.
I gotta tell you, when I found out I won that full ride scholarship trip to Thailand, that was very memorable.
That was it?
Yes.
Did you live on campus or did you commute from home?
I commuted from home.
Oh, okay. And where did you live at that time?
At home with my...
Or where was it?
I lived in the Garden Grove area.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like too far.
No, it wasn't too far. Okay. My drive here was maybe 28 minutes.
Oh, okay. That isn't like
without traffic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But you know what I did as a student? I remember if I had class in the morning and then my last class ended at 4, there was no way I was going to go home because I knew traffic was going to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I waited till after 6:10, 6:30. I would come to the library and get started on my homework. And then when I knew that there wouldn't be so much traffic, I would head home.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to waste time in
That
traffic.
does make sense, yeah. Because then I live in Corona, so like commuting back and forth.
That's a commute.
It is, yeah. It's around like an hour each way though, so it isn't like the worst. Because I know people who commute from further.
Do you come to school every day of the week?
Yeah, Monday through Friday.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Okay. Did you take morning classes or like afternoon classes?
I took morning classes, evening classes, all sorts of classes. Because with biology, My lab classes were 3
yeah.
hours long.
Mm-hmm.
Lecture was like an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So you ended up, sometimes I would end up being here from very early to very late.
Your goals and aspirations. Let's talk about that. So when you were in college, what were your goals? Like, what did you, instead of like disregarding the fact that you wanted to be a doctor? Yeah, when you were a doctor, what did you want to specialize in?
I wanted to be a dermatologist.
Oh, okay.
Or what else did I want to be? No, I think I wanted to be a dermatologist. I thought it was very interesting.
Oh, okay.
And you know why I wanted to be a dermatologist? Because I remember thinking they can choose their business hours. They don't have to be on call at the hospital.
Yeah.
And that way they can I could have a balanced life and have a family and still have my practice. And I think that's why I wanted to be a dermatologist.
And it doesn't seem like too stressful being a dermatologist
right.
in comparison
Versus,
to being
can
a
you imagine
neurologist.
working in the ER? Oh,
Yeah.
God, yeah.
What's your favorite book to read? Have you had like a favorite book to read?
Yes. It's not just one book.
Oh, okay.
I really like books that talk about personal aspirations and goals. I don't really do. Sometimes I like to read romantic novels as well. But I would have to say I think most of the reading I do now, because I read a lot.
Yeah.
At work, I read all day. I write all day. So when I get off work, sometimes the last thing I want to do is keep reading. I want my eyes to rest. Yeah. But when I do read, I do some kind of like motivational speaker novels. I like those.
I see. Okay.
Those relax me and they give me energy, versus reading about, science fiction or stressful stuff. I'm like, I have enough.
Yeah, there's already enough stress. Like,
right, and my cases are enough drama sometimes. I feel like I've invested so much of my life into my education and putting myself in the position where I am now that I think I need to start, like my new goal in life is to start focusing on my personal life, So now my goal is to, of course, keep growing in my profession, but also finding a balance and a time to have my own family, have kids, my own house, things like that. It's just a different focus.
So that changed from when you were like in college till now.
Oh yeah, no. When I was in college, I was all about school, education,
and like career. But now that you're
very
there,
career oriented. Now that I'm here,
it's more like family
time to start
and
focusing on something else.
Yeah, and building like your relationships around you.
Right.
I see. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That a lot of people are focused on that to begin with. And did you also go straight from high school to college?
I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I did. When I was in high school, I don't want to say I was a nerd because I really wasn't a nerd.
Yeah.
I was nerdy-ish in the sense that I was in all the honors classes, all the AP classes that I could possibly take. And I was just very motivated to be a good student.
Yeah.
So then I went straight to college.
Oh, okay, I see. Because then you already knew what you were planning to do at that time.
Yes.
Because a lot of people and a lot of guests on here who didn't know what they wanted to do, they went to junior college first in order to get, like you said before, that it is expensive to be in a four-year university. So they explore everything in that junior college mindset, and then they come here knowing what they want to do.
And the way I see, look, I've mentioned that I had scholarships.
Yeah.
So when I got into Cal State Fullerton and I realized that financially